Hello and welcome to Rewind Avatar, or Analysing Reviews, or whatever we're calling this insane crossover that we've accidentally formed. I guess this will be going in the Analysing Avatar feed, but this is sort of a Rewind Reviews episode in a lot of ways, structurally, because we are taking a look at 2010's Last Airbender film, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, a movie that more often than not I'd like to pretend doesn't exist. But sadly it does. This is a little bit of a surprise episode. We're dropping in the middle of the off season for Analysing Avatar. We thought it'd be fun to give people something in the sort of 10-week gap to sort of break it up a little bit, make it a little bit easier to go without our lovely voices if you don't listen to Rewind Reviews, you know. I can't say that with a serious face.
If it's not going to mess with numbers, I reckon we should put it in the Rewind Reviews feed as well.
Yeah, there you go. We can put it both.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Little bonus episode.
Yeah. Oh, would that make... Because we had a whole big discussion last week on my last choice of whether that was the latest film we'd done, and this would now be the latest. That's not my only reason for suggesting it.
No, it's
That's
fine.
a good point.
We'll come. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. So yeah.
Whack it in because I did realise, I did think like, oh, this is going to feel more like a Rewind review, and then I was like, oh, actually. All our podcasts where we review stuff have the same format. We review the thing, we talk about trip.
Yeah, we do. That, a tried and tested formula we developed during Fringe Observers and just have stuck with ever since and never deviated from.
So
it will.
Chuck it in both.
I think it will. Yeah, but it is interesting because it is kind of a Rewind review, but it is also obviously Avatar based. So yeah, I stick it on both feeds as we'll call it a crossover bonus episode or something like that. So yeah, rewinding Avatar. Here we are. We watched it. It's the first time I've seen it since I saw it in the cinema back in 2010, and I didn't think it was possible to hate it more than I hated it the first time. But I made the mistake, Chris. So I was trying to be, I had a lot of stuff to do yesterday, and I was trying to be guy that gets everything done, I'm the winner. I'm winning at life.
Super Dan.
Ticking off all my list of things I needed to get done today. Sort of, I had that one of those days. And one of the things I needed to do was an hour on the exercise bike. I thought, I got this fucking covered, mate. We'll watch the movie while I'm on the exercise bike. Being on the exercise bike is already not my favourite experience. Having to watch. Ong and the gang running about was just painful. It was challenging. So, I mean, I have the standard sort of history with this film, which is loved the TV show, was excited for a film, bitterly disappointed with the end result. You've had a I suppose a slightly different experience in that you've only seen the first series, and obviously you haven't had any anticipation. You've not been looking at trailers and stuff like that. You went in with the forewarning. This film's reputation. So my first question is,
can't prepare you enough though, can it? I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the way you watched it because you obviously, you would have been completely concentrating, but you had a distraction of some kind. You could think at some point, I'm doing well on my run, on my bike ride. What am I? You look at your time, maybe you look at your heart rate, etc.
Yep. I was checking the old kilometers an hour or whatever it was. I was keeping an eye on my speed, keeping that above 30 where I could.
So all right, fucking humble brag, Jesus. I was taking it all in, Dan. Well done for your top speed, by the way. I was only joking with the humble brag thing. I gave it's so insulting to the other films because often, especially Rewind reviews and actually Avatar itself, this applies to both. Often because Jess doesn't necessarily watch the films or work's just been so nuts in this period, and by this period I mean the last year, lockdown. It will mean I'm watching the film late on my phone or I'm watching it on my work computer. This fucker, I made good time in work. I was only an hour later than I should be, and Jess was like, "I'm gonna go." She bought a bike. She was like, "I'm gonna go pick up a bike," and I'm like, oh, "Okay, cool." And I was like, "Well, I'm done. I might as well." She's going out. I might as well go and watch The Last Airbender downstairs. Like very rare. Like
so you
like
so
that
you
happened.
cracked out a drink and some snacks on your full
Mate, I
TV,
did.
feet
I had a drink. I was on the sofa. It was on the big TV, and it doesn't deserve that treatment.
Yeah, I mean, considering the films we've just watched for Rewind reviews in the previous season, which not all of which have been announced yet, well, when this goes up, but, you know, there have been some good and bad in there. But I think almost all of them deserve a TV, you know, doing it, the treatment you've just described more than this.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, people, like, I would if I could, but there have been times where I've gotten up at, like, it's covered extensively in the episode, but one film I had to get up at, like, 6 a.m. to watch, so...
And he was drinking the night before, which made it so much fun.
Yeah. It's not a lack of... It's not a lack of respect for the films. It is circumstance. I just want to make that clear. But here, so let's talk about my thoughts, Dan. I expected to be like, yeah, it's not good. I expected to be like, yeah, it's a bad adaptation, isn't it? I didn't expect to be angry. And I'm angry about a lot of it.
Yeah, like, wait, can I get you to make the correct pun that you need to make there, please?
Angry, angry. However,
yeah, angry. I like angry.
Yeah. It is, Dan. If it is, but for some reason, this film made the decision to call him Ong.
Yeah, the character is called Ong, and we have Iro and Suka.
There is the shit people have given me for my pronunciation, and I'm like, hold on, how come this cast can do it? It is so. Think of something. Think of someone. This film insults them. It insults the viewer because the pacing. It's like Harry Potter ramped up. Like that sense with when you watch Harry Potter of this is missing some scenes and some explanation. It is so much worse in this film. Like Ong. Like that? Like they find him. So they find him, and first of all, you're like, "Oh, this is." You're distracted at first from Old Ong by the sheer portrayal of Sokka's character, and actually, I don't want to get too in the weeds of. I've seen a lot of because I think I watched the Honest trailer and I listened to 5 minutes of a podcast or something, and a lot of people attack the child actors. I'm not in the business of attacking child actors. Well, child actors are child actors. Now,
not only that, but like I'm sorry, but you fucking Laurence Olivier couldn't deliver this fucking dialogue convincingly.
Here's the thing.
And in terms of pronunciations, I'm sorry, that's the director's job to manage.
Yeah. Completely, and these kids were cast by someone as well, so yeah. But I'm watching this performance, and I'm like, oh, it's so much more rigid than Sokka. It's so much more downbeat than Sokka.
Yeah, he's very dour, isn't he?
Yeah, of all the characters, I think that's the most unlike him. But there's this moment, Dan, where I think it's during we'll get to all these points, obviously, but I think it's during the Earthbender scene where, like, something, like, misses his head or hits him on the head or something, and the character has this real kind of, sometimes that kind of slapstick, the kind of thing that Sokka does, right. Like, when they get, like, when he gets hit by on the head, or he's like, huh? Like, and the music does that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And... there's a split second. Maybe I'll see if I can pull it up and find the time code. There's a split second where it's there, and I'm like, this isn't the actor's fault. I genuinely think if the character had been written more like the Sokka of the TV show, actually, this actor could have pulled that off. Like, yeah. Obviously, it should never have been played by this actor because of the horrific whitewashing. Again. We'll get to that, but do you know what I mean? If you've got this actor, if you've got this part,
yes,
I genuinely
he's capable. I think he probably was capable.
Yeah. But it's the appalling dialogue, it's the bizarre script decisions, It's the appalling fuck me people. It was like someone went, these are all the things that people criticize Blade Runner for. Let's do them all. Like, we've got a scroll, we've got voiceover, we've got clunky dialogue, as the Honest Trailer pointed out, like in the toast scene where he's like, as everyone knows, but for the audience's benefit, Prince Zuko has been outcast, and da-da-da, and exposition. Just pick a few things to miss out. I tell you what, controversial, because obviously I'm aware how huge it is in the TV series. I'm aware of that. Unless it has any great consequence on the storyline going forward, just don't fucking do the spoilers, obviously. Just don't do the Moon and Ocean Spirit. Just don't do them, because it doesn't add anything. Our hero, or at least the character that's meant to be our hero, Aang, isn't involved in it at all. It's rushed. Just have it build to a big battle at the North Water Tribe Temple. Just have it build to him. Actually, don't say things like, you've not really dealt with running away yet. Actually fucking show us that. Like, and just do two things properly instead of trying to do like 6 episodes in one movie and doing none of it with decent pacing. None of it with decent dialogue. Name the fucking character right. Like, that's an easy thing to do. Aang. Even I've never fucking struggled to say Aang, so I don't know why you've changed it. Like, and obviously then there's the insulting casting decisions and completely, taking away a lot of the diversity and a lot of the way it pays tributes to different cultures and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of problems with this movie, Dan. And like I say, I was prepared for a bad movie. I was prepared for that. I wasn't prepared to be sat there going, "Oh, fuck you." Like, it's really, why does it start with them replicating the title sequence bit with the 4 benders? It just doesn't look good. Like, and like nothing else. I was like, are we gonna go into a full on like previously on Nickelodeon stuff? I tell you what was cool. They incorporated fire and water into the Nickelodeon logo and the one of the other studio logos, and I was like, and a lot of the graphics are bad, but again, I think the graphics, like the child actors, is one of those things where it's like some of the actual visuals are cool, but the idea is ruined. Like, I don't think, 2010, I don't think the water looks that bad, but when the water is being kicked like a football, it's going to come across as shitter than it is.
Because the physics don't work.
So it's like, I think the graphics have an unfair rep, actually. Not in all, because some of the graphics are awful. I think the special effects have an unfair rep because of what the special effects were told to do. And I think the child actors have a bad rep because of what the child actors were told to do.
Yeah.
But that's not me defending the movie, because I was genuinely angry at how insultingly bad. Because the main thing I kept thinking, and I'm done now, and you can talk. Apologies. But
I know. I want. This is exactly what I wanted. I feel like the Emperor at the end of Return of the Jedi. I'm like, let the hate flow through you. Join me on the dark side. I feel like I've won you over. It's excellent. Like, I'm reveling in your hatred.
I can't imagine, mate. You at the beginning of the movie, I wanted to see. I can't remember what I wanted to see, but I ended up on the Wikipedia page. Do you know what's on the "See Also" at the bottom of the Wikipedia page? See Also, list of Avatar: The Last Airbender characters and list of films considered the worst. Like, not every bad movie literally is on that webpage. Like, no. It's an elite group. Anyway, the main thing, one of the main things I kept coming back to and consistently thought throughout is nothing has weight. Nothing is earned. The friendships aren't earned, so they don't have weight because we don't really explore them. The moon and the ocean spirit doesn't have weight because we've not explored it. Prince Zuko's quest doesn't have weight. We've not earned it. We've not explored it. Like, it's just for an hour that is 1 hour and 50 minutes. It felt like nobody was on screen for any time at all, and they probably were on screen. It's just they weren't doing. They were saying expositional dialogue and then doing stuff of hardly any consequence. Like, how frustrating is it that one of the best lines in the series, when Aang is like, "We could be friends, you know," is just put here and just wasted as he just exits a room and just randomly
casually throws the line out. Yeah,
and just is like, "We could be friends, you know," and it's like there's been no indication that you could have been friends because the parallels between the relationship haven't been explored because nothing in this movie has weight, and nothing they're trying to do is by actually devoting time, decent dialogue, plot, etc. to it. And the movie's 1 hour and 50 minutes. And it's just, I think, at the root of its problem, other than M. Night Shyamalan, at the root of its problem is it's just trying to do too much.
Yes.
But obviously it is. It's fucking trying to do 21 episodes in a fucking 1 hour, 50 minute movie.
Oh boy, how right you are.
Don't try and do 21 episodes in an hour and 50 minute movie then. Like,
nope.
This is as simple as that.
So to jump very briefly to the trivia, I'll tell you how he developed the script for this, Chris. The first draft included all 20 episodes of narrative. And the running time was over 7 hours. Paramount and Nickelodeon then said nope and told him to condense it down to the length of a feature film, which he apparently begrudgingly did.
What? So in his head, he was thinking he'd get just a 7 hour movie? He's not Zack Snyder.
I don't know what he was thinking. But even if he wasn't, even if this piece of trivia is sort of biased and sort of making Shyamalan look like an idiot, and his plan was always to condense it down, that is not the way to develop a screenplay. To write a 7 hour screenplay and then condense it down, because what you're essentially doing there is you're forcing yourself, and it explains a lot of this film actually. You're forcing yourself to have to basically spend 99% of your movie explaining your movie. Because you've got more plot than it'll ever hold, you know.
And you end up with shit like, I'm sorry, the Earthbenders don't need to be in this movie, and it makes sense to keep something back for the sequel when you've only got an hour and 50 minutes. You don't need earthbending in this movie. You don't need a montage of them starting rebellions and freeing towns. I'm not being stupid, am I, Dan? Like, they accidentally did that a little bit, but that's not a thing, is it? Like, it's not a quest in the show. Like, they make it out to be here.
No.
And I'm like, why is this here? Like, you don't need that either. No. You need, at its core, you need the relationship between the three of them building. You need Aang being arrogant and not getting to grips with water bending, and you need a big fucking fight at the northern water tribe. And you know what, I know, and maybe if you only do those things and don't do the earthbending and all of that shit, maybe you can fit in moon and ocean, because I do get that if they did that big fight, people would be going, where the fuck are the moon and ocean spirits? That was a huge part of series 1. I get that, but I just think it would be one of those things where people would go, what's that about? But anyone that hadn't seen the TV show, or anyone coming at it from a bit more of an analytical point of view, would go, well, it makes sense to cut that. You can't have everything. But or just maybe you've got room for it if you get rid of earthbending, get rid of the montage and all that shit.
I think the core of it, though, is that they introduce idea after idea and then do nothing with any of it. Like, all right, you've got the moon and the ocean spirit. Cool. You've slapped them in the movie, right? We've done the visual. Aang goes to meditate. They're there. Dickhead comes in, and he stabs one of them. In the show, by the way, he uses firebending. I don't know why he chose to stab it in this one. I don't know. That seems weirdly more violent to me, but whatever. Right. Guy kills the spirit. Sky goes red. Then Yue gives herself up, and the sky's not red anymore. What's the consequence of either action? What's the effect on the plot of either action? Because some would say, well, wait a minute. When he does it, it proves that firebenders get more strong because then Iroh, becomes a big giant crazy, and everyone's going, he can create fire out of thin air. Well, I'll ask you this question, dear listener. Are they not implying that Iroh is so good at firebending he can do that anyway?
Yeah, that's what I got from it.
Yeah. So then, what's the effect of the moon spirit? Do we have a montage in this movie of the waterbenders losing their powers and the firebenders kicking their asses? No, there's no consequence to the action. So then, why is it in the movie? If it doesn't impact your narrative thrust, then fucking cut it.
I would have loved to have, on reflection.
Yeah.
I mean, she never would have stuck with it, I don't think. On reflection, I would have loved to have watched this with Jess, because I don't understand how anyone that didn't watch the TV show
could make sense
follows this movie at all. Now, look, Harry Potter has a similar problem, but in Harry Potter's defense, you can still follow it. It's not as rich, it's not as detailed, and it's got its flaws. But so I understand people watching Harry Potter and still falling in love with just the films and getting it and following the story. I don't understand how anyone that hasn't seen the TV show has any idea what the fuck is happening in this film.
Well, I think what helps that is that with Harry Potter they ease you in, because the first book is so short. The first film is reasonably close to the first book. There's not a lot of omissions. Do you know what I mean? Like they cover most of it. So that you sort of get eased in as the books get longer, but the films have to stay at film length.
And they make
those
sensible
movies
cuts,
get crazier as they go in terms of like how much information they can cram in and not cram in.
And but also they make sensible cuts, because they cut the things that
we've had different perspectives on that depending on the movie, but yeah.
No, on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone specifically.
Oh, sorry, Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, sorry.
Because and this is my humble brag, and I think I've told the story before, but I remember as a kid having some sense of narrative for film versus book, because we were on the way to see the first film, and I said, I'm just really excited. I was young. I can't remember how old I was, but I was young. And I was like, I'm really excited for that first scene where the bike comes down and Harry's left on the doorstep. And everyone in the car was like, well, that's not the first scene. The first scene is the flashback of the Dursleys' weird day and everyone's celebrating. And in my head, I was just like, it wouldn't make sense to start there. The more intriguing, the more cinematic starting point is Harry being left on the doorstep, because fundamentally you don't need that. It adds something to the Dursleys' character, but you only the dad really, and you don't. It's not doing anything that isn't then done in other scenes later. That isn't done with Hagrid. Hagrid can just say everyone celebrated when he died. Whatever, Voldemort. He must not be named. And so, but this film doesn't do any of that clever decision making. And
not at all.
Part of the filmmakers, not me predicting it, but this film doesn't do the equivalent of that. This film, like I say, the earthbending thing. Tell me why that's in there. Oh well, we get to see the world a bit more, and it's cool, and we show them encouraging people to revolt. Well, yeah, but what? Okay, so what? Them encouraging people to revolt. What does that then do for their characters? What does it do for the world? What does it do for the rest of the characters? Nothing. It has no consequence. So if it has no consequence, maybe take the time to fucking develop the relationship between Sokka and the girl who sacrifices herself. Because again, that's another key point, that unless you have watched a TV show, you don't have a fucking clue what's going on with that.
It's done in It's done in bloody. It's done in a bloody. Their entire relationship is done in narration. He gives her the eyes, and she goes, "They got on very well," or something like that, and then it just cuts to it. It's been 3 weeks, and they're basically a couple, and it's like, sorry, what? How did this happen?
Just, and then we don't see him. We don't see him mourning her. We don't see the consequence of it, and let alone, like I say, at that point, I'm like, what is Aang gonna do in this final battle? Because so far he's not been involved in anything apart from dicking around with Zuko. And then it's like, oh, he's gonna create a big wave, which is gonna make them scared and run away.
Yeah,
but there's still firebenders.
the wave because
The
I've
other
got
side of the wave? Like, what?
yeah, I want to talk about the wave. The wave, because the wave I wrote down, and I made this point, is I think the wave is actually a good example of this entire movie's problem. Because it comes so close to getting it right, but then gets it so horribly, horribly wrong. Because here's an example of a good omission. You know a good omission? Aang being a big giant spirit monster. It's a cool visual, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of explaining. And it's probably not worth it, right? But you want to end showing Aang's power and realization as the Avatar and becoming, one part of that and learning water, mastering water. So the premise of when Aang finally gets his head together, understands his destiny, the concept of when he finally accepts his fate and doesn't want to run away anymore, he goes into the Avatar state and he has this incredible power over this huge swath of water. That, as an idea, on paper, stunning. Perfect.
Yeah,
like,
it's great.
That's the exact way you do that, right? They've made a smart omission to keep it tighter, but it also gives Aang a narrative sort of climax, right? A character arc as such. So the movie gets to that point, and I'm watching it, and Aang's lifting up the water, and I'm going, you know what? Actually, I have no objections to this scene. The music's good, art direction's on point, his tattoos are all glowy, the water's all coming up. Feels pretty epic. I'm on board. And then he just lowers the wave, and the ships turn around. And I just...
And
I thought,
there's no explanation of what happens to the firebenders that are still in the city.
And I'm just thinking, from a movie perspective, if I'm a viewer, if I'm just Joe Blow, because I tried to review this movie in my head as I went along without being like, well, the show did it this way. I tried to just say, well, what does this movie do in of itself, right? What are this movie's flaws in of itself? Let's not think about the show, because anyone can sit there and go, it's different, it's different, it's different. And I think the reason a lot of time people do that kind of argument about this is, it's different from the show, it's different from the show, is because the show does it well. So it's often easy when something does it badly to point to the show to be, here's an example of how you do it right. But the show gets...
But also I think it's because you have to, because otherwise you can't separate the two, because you need to have watched the show to know what the fuck's going on.
Well, exactly. So I'm trying to just take the movie in isolation and see how it functions, and it's badly is the answer. Because what happens is he lifts up this big wave, and instead of like pushing it forward and all the ships being sort of pushed away, which they sort of start to make it look like is going to happen before he lowers the wave, he just lowers it and they turn around. If he'd have pushed all the ships away by shoving his hand out and the wave just started slowly moving forward and taking the ships with it, like not showing them like toppling or dying or anything, but like just showing the ships getting sort of pushed away by this wave, wouldn't that have been better?
Yeah, completely.
And that doesn't seem like a big change, but it makes a massive difference to your understanding of this, because an audience member watching this in isolation is going, why did they turn around? Now, a person watching the show might be able to fansplain it and go, well, it's the sign that the Avatar has returned. He's a feared force amongst the community. There's been a lot of doubt in this movie as to whether Aang is the Avatar. They've tested him, which is something they didn't do in the show. Like, he's been gone for 100 years. You could argue, with the context of the show in mind, that it's the realization that the Avatar has returned. But the movie doesn't set that up properly. The movie doesn't address that. They don't even have a character, this is a movie with people just constantly explaining everything all over the place. One of my notes is, exposition, the movie. Because this movie is top to bottom exposition. If there is a line of dialogue being spoken, it is exposition. And there is no character or anything. So for a movie that is happy to talk you through every single thing that's happening in as much detail as it can cram in the awkwardest possible way, they don't even have a shot of a guy on a boat going, it's the Avatar, run, and turning the ship round, which seems like the simplest thing to include if you want that as your explanation. And that whole scene is indicative of this entire movie, because I have one compliment to pay the movie. Well, kind of two, I guess. I think the art direction's good. I think the sets look all right. I think the costumes look okay. I'm okay with the visual of Appa. All right, yeah, the CGI of the day, little limited, but he looks fine. He's not much in the movie.
I thought Appa looked good, actually.
fine, no problem with Appa, no problem with Momo, no problem with the costumes. I thought the northern water tribes sort of Ice City looked pretty cool. The Earth Kingdom not so much, but like the Fire Nation places where Aang gets held when he fights with the Blue Spirit, that set design wise and art direction wise, that's great. I mean, admittedly, art direction's easier when you're just stealing the art direction of a TV show that exists that's done that really well and is masterful. But still...
also, but sometimes you can't see fuck all. Sometimes it's too dark. Like you can't see.
That's true.
Like that fight scene is quite.
I do wish
hidden.
that the nighttime stuff in at the end, particularly in that final action sequence, was like a bit more moonlit. So it was like sort of like that movie Dark, where it's night but you can very clearly see everything. That would have been nicer for me. And also with my understanding is if you've got a full moon on a big icy place like that, the moonlight reflects off the ice and lights the things stood on it quite strongly. So I think you could have explained that away and it wouldn't have looked too odd. Yeah, agreed. It is a bit too dark.
That could have looked wicked. That could have looked great.
Yeah, it could have done. But still, the actual art direction, that's more about lighting and like color grading and stuff. But the actual art direction, the design of all that stuff, on point. The music also, I think, is my sort of second one. Pretty good, I think. It's a pretty good soundtrack. I think the music particularly that plays while Ong is finally realizing it and bringing that big wave up. Pretty good. Now, take those two things I just said that are compliments. Anything else that you can think of with this movie, any other element of this movie at all that you can think of is bad. Yeah, absolutely everything else. It's no sense of fun or spirit whatsoever. It's awkward and stilted at all times. It's boring and full to the bursting point with poorly written exposition. The action scenes are awful. They have no tension whatsoever. All the characters fall flat, and the villains have no menace, which is a problem. The added frustration is that obviously the show exists, which has the blueprint for how to bring any element of this to life if you want to. Would you like to make Sokka a more interesting, compelling character? Well, you know what? Maybe just borrow a couple of the things he did in the show. You could do that, and your movie would feel better. I'm not saying put the whole show in there, but like any of it. You want to make Aang seem a little less dour. Well, you know what? Aang in the show did some fun stuff. Maybe include one of those things.
Yeah. Who do you think is the worst? Because my instinct is Sokka is the worst translation.
Correct.
Because the character just has none of the heart, none of the joy, none of the wit, none of the anything.
Correct.
But Aang's done pretty badly as well, because Aang's not irritating, and like I don't mean that as an insult to the character. We talked about this. He grows a lot thanks to being more irritating at the beginning. He doesn't have that irritating distraction in the film.
Weirdly, I accept a little bit of flattening out of a main character in a movie like this, because the weight is on him to be the hero or whatever. And Aang is quite multi-dimensional in the show, but it's a show. He has a lot of time to do that. They don't actually... Sokka is established in episode 1 of the show. It's clear you can set up Sokka being Sokka without a huge amount of work, right? Like, whereas getting a main character as complex as Aang, that does take a lot more time in your script. So I kind of understand there's going to be some flattening out of a main character like Aang in a movie like this. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Sokka is the more offensive change because the fix is easy. And you almost sense them doing it. Like, in the opening... You almost sense them trying, I should say. In the opening scene, things are in trouble straight away because Katara splashes Sokka with water and he gets all angry and starts marching towards her. And I think, they're going to do some like joke where he's going to like either tickle her or lift her up and dump her in the water himself, or something silly. Like they're going to do something silly. He just sort of walks towards her grumpily, and she's like, "Stop!" And then he just stops. It goes nowhere. And I'm like, What were you doing? And then there's a bit where Appa's tail knocks him over, and I'm like, "Oh, you're trying. I think is that what that is? You're trying to make him look like the character from the movie." Tell you what, there's one bit in the whole movie that made me laugh, like actually earned a laugh, and it's only because I remembered the funnier version of the same joke in the show. But it's the bit when they are in the Earth Kingdom, and Katara does her big swishy movements, and and then the camera pulls back, and Sokka is frozen in ice.
Yeah.
So they try.
But again, you're just remembering the show more, though. Aren't
Yeah,
you?
100%. Oh, the show earned that laugh, and the movie took advantage of it. It was a cheaply earned laugh, and it's the only time I laughed in this whole movie. The only time I laughed in this movie, honestly, not of derision, because let me tell you, I have never laughed, Chris. How many movies did we just review for Rewind Reviews? 11 movies. For those listening to this, even though the series hasn't all aired yet, we recorded those in advance. So we've recorded all of the series of Rewind Reviews at this point. We're doing this just before we're starting to record Analysing Avatar. The most I've laughed in any of those 11 movies, Chris, was during the Earth Kingdom sequence. When 7 Kingdom Earthbenders in unison do this movement. And then this piddly little rock floats by in the most unimpressive way I've ever seen.
I mean, it could be thrown. The rock could be thrown. That's the thing. It wouldn't take much. Pick up and throw it, mate.
It's about the size. It's about the size of a head, like my head. It takes like 10 of them to make it move, and it moves with no force whatsoever. Like if I was in the path of that rock and it hit me, I'd be like, "Get out of my way! Stop it!" Like it would just like bump up against me lightly, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" Where's the energy? Where's the force? This movie is full of people doing over elaborate, almost minute long movement routines that lead to so little bending.
Yeah, there's very little cool bending of any kind in this movie. And again, instead of doing them going to the earthbending tribe and setting them free, what about the plot where they meet the other water tribe and they meet the mate of their dad's? Do you know what I mean? Like, do that and link it to water. Have it be truly book 1 water, and tease a bit of earthbending at the end.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think
whole scene. Not only is it visually appalling, it's completely unnecessary. Because you're right, the visuals in that scene are inadvertently hilarious.
Yeah, and it's so flat, and I think it's because he was determined to do it in one take. He wanted this like one take fight scene, but the problem is doing a one take fight scene with those kind of special effects is like clearly more than him and his production team could handle here, because the end result is. Because a camera can't move as fast as you're going to want a rock to, like. Because I guess if I was the CGI guy, I'd want them to have shot it in a way where it's a movement, and then I could make a rock across the screen, right? But because he's insisted in this particular fight scene of all of them on doing it in a single take, where the camera sort of slowly rotates through the sequence. You're trapped by the pacing of that, aren't you? You can't make a rock across the screen, because then you've just got to watch the earthbenders stand there and twiddle their thumbs while the camera works its way around them to the next action point. So you have to make it go that slowly, because there's literally no other way to do it. That is quite unfortunate. I do think there's a way to have made the Earth Kingdom work, but that is to simplify everything. That what they should have done, I think, with the structure of this film is Aang is discovered at the North Pole with the Fire Nation. He escapes with Sokka and Katara. They're in the Earth Nation. Aang gets all upset at the situation with the occupation of the Fire Nation. He tries to free a village, gets captured doing that because he's not a fully formed avatar yet. Then Blue Spirit escape, and then he goes, well, now I need to learn how to be an avatar before I can try and do this. So he almost like learns a lesson from it. And that's when they go straight to the North Pole.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's your movie structure right there, right? Like that you can include the earthbending, and it doesn't affect the flow, because it's the attempt to free the Earth Kingdom that gets him captured. Whereas in this, he goes to the Earth Kingdom, frees it. They do a weird montage of him freeing various Earth Kingdom things, and then they have a sequence where he tries to go to another place to get information and gets captured there. That seems like several necessary steps, when you could just get him, take a little bit more time with the opening sequence, and then in the middle of your movie, you have him at the Earth Kingdom and get captured, and that's that, and that leads you into your finale. But hey, what do I know? I think some of the choreography and some of the fights towards the end of the movie are okay, I guess. Like I don't mind the acrobatics of Aang during the siege of the North Water Tribe, when he's like, ducking under knives and backflipping over people and stuff. That's cool enough, I guess. And the fight with him and the Blue Spirit, I suppose, has some okay choreography in it, but that one loses all of its tension because of that weird, this is like the training thing I used to have moment, which I don't know what they were doing with that.
I'd say
that's a
don't
really slow, dull, energyless fight scene. That part.
I don't think you really need any of the... Have his past be a mystery. Do you know what I mean? And have it be that he doesn't know who he is. I don't think we needed a lot of the, the flashbacks and it just
but again,
took time away.
But so much of it isn't even done in flashbacks. So much of it is told to you, not shown to you. Like he describes certain things happening. Long pages of dialogue scenes where everyone's explaining everything. Zuko's backstory is done in sort of the same way. It's like it's told. There's a few flashes to visuals of it, but like it's mostly told, not shown. And it's awkward and clunky as fuck. I mean, look, it's bad in every conceivable way, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's hard to... It's honestly, like, I was watching it, like, I don't know what there is to say, other than just being like, it's really bad, guys. Like, do you know what I mean? It's hard to even... Because for all the reasons we've said, like, pacing, structure, those are the big ones for me. Like, like you said, it just needed, like, some restructuring.
Exposition. But I guess if you paced it better, you wouldn't have needed to have so much... exposition.
Just take some stuff out. We've both listed a bunch of stuff that it's just like we don't need that. Like I'll be honest with you, I don't think we really needed to do the Fire Lord. Like
no, that's my big note.
Yeah, just have it be Zuko and Zhao. Like we don't need that. Like
or even just have a hint to him and make him menacing. Like that's what the show does. He doesn't show up in the first season for a reason. Like it's set up. And also, by the way, can I just say, like, for just even forgetting the structural weight you're putting on your story by introducing yet another character you don't need in the fucking movie, which is he is my biggest suggestion for a cut in my notes. But. Fuck me. Could he be any less menacing? Like,
yeah, I know. But all of them, man. Zhao's not particularly menacing either, and I like that actor a lot. But...
Like, sad, boring man devoid of all menace. The Fire Lord, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I don't understand. I don't know why he's in the movie. Because he's just another character to underserve. And one they've added unnecessarily because he's not in the show.
Yeah, completely. Well, I guess it's trying to give the Fire Nation weight and like an idea of the politics, but that's a richer idea than we need to go into in this film. Like you think about, like, again, like an obvious comparison, Harry Potter. The Death Eaters are a huge part of that mythology, and their following of He Who Can't Be Named and all that sort of shit. They're not in the first book, and they're not in the first movie. Like, at least I don't think they are. Like, just... Maybe if they're mentioned, they're only mentioned.
No, I don't think they get a shout out in the first movie at all.
You don't need it.
Yeah, why would you add something extra in? It just it's like you're putting more weight on a story that's already struggling to maintain its structure.
I'll be honest, if we're being really ruthless, and again... To take 21 episodes and turn it into an hour and 50-minute movie, you need to be ruthless. Probably get away with not having Zhao. I'd like, his... I loved it in the TV show, and obviously, we have... Well, they kill him in a much more brutal way in the film. Like, the waterbenders specifically kill him. My memory of his death in the TV show is it was more his fault than anyone else's. Correct. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're remembering that exactly right. So everyone who bows to the giant Aang spirit monster is left alone, but anyone who doesn't gets like blasted away. Zhao starts getting sucked up by the Aang spirit monster thing, and Zuko holds out his hand and offers to help him, but out of spite he refuses, and then he gets sucked into God knows where.
So good.
Yeah, that's great. It's it's a very powerful scene. It's one of my favorites.
So, and that's amazing in the TV show. They didn't do that in the book, and I guess you could include him and do that, and it would be cool. But in what they're currently doing, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
that's all of it is.
That's the thing. I mean, with the version I pitched, where it's a very simple sort of 3-act structure. You got your first act in the Southern Water Tribe, a sort of middle act where he gets caught in the Earth Nation and escapes, attempting to free it, and then having learnt that he needs to become a fully realized Avatar, goes to the Northern Water Tribe for the final act. In that version of the movie, you don't really need Zhao. You have the Fire Nation sieging the North is enough of a reason for Aang to be fighting. The Northern Water Tribe is in trouble because of Aang. Yet another group.
But I suppose
because then you could tie that to Aang's history as well, which is the Air Nomads were wiped out and he wasn't there to save them, and now they've come for the Water Tribe because he's there, and it's also his fault.
Yeah, but are they then a faceless villain? If you're sticking to, right? Yeah, but you're kind of sticking to him being. I feel like what this film is trying to do, again, not as well as the show, obviously,
sure,
is make it a bit uncertain whether he actually is the villain. Just actually, that element is hardly there. That's just me adding to it because I know the show. I don't think anyone watching this would feel that way. But ideally, what you do with Zuko is show a bit of conflict inside of him.
Yeah, okay, sure, but so you have General Zhao then, but he still doesn't need to be as big a player as he is in this. He's just the leader of that force.
No, we don't need to cut to him fucking talking about. Oh, it's all so convoluted. I'm just remembering it the more we talk about it. The fucking. Oh yeah, by the way, we've got these scrolls, so we're gonna go to the water thing. But you're going there anyway because you think he's there, or you could just be going. It's so clunky. Oh God!
And yet,
it's so clunky.
And yet, it's clear. It's very clear, I think, that he does like the show, M. Night. He just doesn't seem to understand how to translate it, because there are some cool little subtle nods. Like there's a little reference to Hammer, who's a character you've not met yet, Chris. But there's a little reference in the early part of the movie, which is setting up a character that appears in, I think, season 3, and it's very small. You wouldn't even notice it. But a fan of the show goes, "Oh, that's exciting." And it's clear he's watched the show and likes the show and enjoys the mythology. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem here was that he wasn't able to separate his love for the show from the movie. So he tried to put it all in because he liked what he was watching.
With the 7-hour cut.
This is what I'm saying. So the story goes that apparently he started watching the show after his daughter wanted to dress as Katara for Halloween one year. So he became a fan of the show. Now, I buy that. And also, it's worth noting here, I don't know much about M. Night Shyamalan as a person, but I've never seen him be anything less than polite, respectful. He seems like a nice guy. And, family man, makes his movies, fine. This isn't, just to clarify, this isn't a personal attack. And also, this is someone who clearly did see something in the Avatar mythology, right? He got it very wrong. He got it astronomically wrong on many levels. But 2 factors. 1, he got it wrong out of trying to do it all, which I guess is kind of noble in a weird backwards way. Right? Yeah. I kind of respect the attempt because sort of a part of me goes, oh, he just loved the show too much. As evidenced, I think, by his 7-hour script. He basically just wanted to do the show. He just wanted to put the show on. He wanted to walk into the cinema and just start playing the fucking TV show.
Who was that dude that remade Psycho shot for shot? He's that dude.
Gus Van Sant.
Yeah, he's that dude.
He loved it too much. He loved it so much he smothered it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, and I think there's something oddly commendable about that.
I really do.
And look, because again, he gets a lot of shit. Fundamentally, you can tell. I think he's trying. I really do think he's trying.
I agree. Yeah, I think his intentions are pure, even if the execution is awful. And again, it's worth adding, there is actually more to the story of why this movie is such a mess. Sorry, that has just amused me. The sudden realization that he loved it too much, and that was the problem. The other problem with this movie, and you might not be aware of this, Chris, because I imagine you didn't do a huge amount of research because you obviously only watched yesterday. You haven't had, I can't imagine you've had the time to go through the trivia and stuff yourself. What it turns out, and I didn't know this, was Nickelodeon. It was during that 3D fad, where every movie got badly post-filming converted to 3D. And Nickelodeon and Paramount worked out it would cost too much to convert the movie to 3D at its current length. So it was, at the time, it was roughly 2 hours and 20 minutes, the movie, the current cut they had. So they cut 30 minutes from the movie.
Yeah.
So that it would be cheaper because there'd be less footage to convert to 3D. Not because the story needed cuts, but because of that.
Yeah, but that suggests... But the thing is, you say to me...
Yes.
Right,
yeah, I have the counter. Yeah, go on, though. I think you're going to say what exactly I have evidence of, but go on.
You say to me, 30 minutes got cut. And I'm like, right, well, maybe that 30 minutes includes some scenes at the beginning where our three heroes actually share more than 2 words with each other. Yeah. Maybe we see Aang waking up. Maybe we see them bonding, which makes more sense of, Sokka and Katara's decision to go after him. Mm-hmm. Maybe we see more of this. Everything I want to see more of in that half an hour is character stuff, which wouldn't have cost them anything to make 3D. That suggests they cut out fucking fight scenes, even more random Earthbender revolt shit.
No, converting anything to 3D costs the same amount because you're giving any image depth. But you are correct, because one of the things that was removed, Chris, and I know this because apparently there was a poster released for the character, and there was also I think it was a French trailer that had included a shot of the Kyoshi Warriors were in this movie, Chris.
Oh God!
They were shot. They were in one of the fight scenes. They'd cast Suki, the leader of the Kyoshi Warriors, and they were one of the victims of this cut. So the cut wasn't too... The cut, unsurprisingly, wasn't, it seems, taking out stuff that makes this stuff richer or more clear. But the cut seems to have been more shit that was included that probably didn't need to be. So you are correct. Like you're what you were getting at there, even though I do think the thing you said about the conversion, I do think it costs the same regardless. But
yeah,
your point is still absolutely valid, because my understanding is it was other bits that had been sort of thrown in that were cut. So I can't imagine that 30 minutes makes this movie any more coherent, any better. Yeah, it's a victim of one man who loved it too much. I do love book 1, Water. I'm just like, that's optimistic at this point, I think.
Yeah, that made me laugh. I was just like literally cackling. I was like, nope.
To summarize, I think, oh God, boring, too much exposition, bad action scenes, no tension, characters are flat, no investment in the characters, the villains have no menace, all the attempts of humour are bad. It doesn't make a lot of sense most of the time. It's awkward and stilted.
One thing I will say, as much as he's clearly a fan, as much as he's trying, and as much as with all of these things, we don't know the full story. We don't know. No. I think hundreds of people worked very hard on this. It's like Dan said. It's never. I don't think it should ever be personal. But
it should never be personal. Fans, but fuck that guy.
No. Because I'm not targeting one individual here. I'm talking about.
I know. I was just making a joke.
For something where there's clearly fans of the show at work here.
Yes.
Just to voice this thing, because I imagine listeners are shouting it. It is insane how they got every single character wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, though? Like,
yeah.
no character feels like the character from the show.
No. Who do you think?
And that's almost impressive. Like Iroh, just not the fun, cheeky, jokey, hidden genius.
And what's funny about that is they try to include little tiny fractional moments of that, which then just feel out of place because it's not his established character. So when Zuko comes back from being the blue spirit and freeing Aang, and he's like getting his feet rubbed and lying back, like you could see a scene with the show's Uncle Iroh where it's a joke. And he's like, "Oh, I'm getting rest and relaxation, very important." Doing like a whole shtick about how, I like to spend 90% of my day resting or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's something cheeky, like Iroh-y, where the message is, you're working yourself too hard, go get some sleep. But he's doing it in that fun Iroh sort of way. But there's a fraction of it there, but then it just becomes weird. You're just like, why is he getting his feet rubbed? Why is he just on a deck chair next to the ship? Like, it's because it loses all context, because at no other point do they set up the rest of that character. And it's the same with Sokka in that weird moment at the beginning where he looks all grumpy and like sort of walks towards Katara like he's going to push her over or something, and then doesn't. It's like there are fragments of the show's characters out there, but because they're never established, it's even worse than just not representing those characters correctly. It makes the characters that they are make less sense. Because, make Sokka a boring... Like, okay, you've made a choice. Maybe Sokka is just stoic now. All right, fine. Then why include moments like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. I don't mind changes if you've got a good reason for it. Okay, Aang is, in this version, he has trouble waterbending, whereas in the show he could do it. Fine, I don't mind that change. Why have you done it, though? What's the purpose of that?
Because actually, that's an example of a change that when you've only got 2 hours to tell your story, that change makes more sense. It makes more sense if you don't have time to get the nuance of he can do it, but he's a bit arrogant and he can't do it fully because he's being a bit cocky, and he struggles with the bigger stuff. If you're taking that kind of arrogance out of his character completely, then actually him struggling to do it makes more sense. The problem is he struggles and then he produces a big fucking wave at the end. Like there's no scene where it comes to him.
No.
I think there's all the signs, and it's very difficult to say this because it's not like the younger cast in particular have gone on to do an awful lot since. But I really think all the actors could have done it. The uncle, there's, like you say, there's bits of it. Sokka, we've talked about how there's fragments of it. I don't think it's the cast's fault. I think it's the script and the dialogue and the pacing and structure they've been given.
Yeah, 100%
I will
agree.
say, I think...
And a
I
lack
think
of understanding of who these characters are. And a script not particularly interested in making the characters clear either. It feels like, because he wanted to cram everything in, the script just became 98% plot rather than character, and he just went okay and moved on with that, because he wanted to include everything. And again, it's a big problem because another example of a character having a moment that's kind of reflective of their TV counterpart, but with none of the work to make them that way, it feels weird. The moment when Zuko and Aang are fighting in the Northern Water Tribe, and Aang is hiding behind Zuko and acrobatically moving left and right to avoid his gaze. That's supposed to be playful and fun. But because this version of Aang has been a boring, stoic exposition spouter, as every other character has been, it's just weird. It doesn't work. I understand what you're trying to do, but you've not supplied the character stuff to make that make sense. So instead, it's abysmal. It's like a really bad attempt at comedy. Come on. What are you doing?
Zuko's the closest to being
right.
Not the depth, not the detail. Not,
I think you're right. I think,
anything.
Zuko is probably the best.
Still got bad dialogue, but I don't think that's just because Dev Patel is a brilliant actor. Obviously, that helps. But that character's been written closest as well. Like, you could give some of the dialogue he had to the character in the cartoon, and you wouldn't go, this feels out of place. Whereas with some of the other characters, it would. We've not, before you sort of said about...
I did the whitewashing. We've got to talk about the whitewashing.
We've not done... we've not done diversity, which is just fucking insulting, horrific, and awful.
Yeah. So with the
not the concept of diversity, the
lack of it in this film.
In this film, there's a lack of it.
Yeah. It's frustrating, isn't it? It's. Here's the thing, right? I don't mind if you say to me, in the show, each nation is a specific culture, and in our movie, we're just going to mix it up. Fine. As long as there is then some diversity. But what they've done here is make everyone but the bad guys white. and I find that really strange. Again, look, in the show, it's clear that they're all inspired by various Asian cultures. So Aang is sort of inspired by sort of a Buddhist character, Katara and Sokka, based on Inuits. The Fire Nation sort of lean sort of culturally towards Japanese. So I suppose there's a version of this movie where you hire people of Inuit heritage to play the Water Tribe people, someone of Buddhist heritage to play Aang, and people with Japanese heritage to play the Fire Nation characters. But I don't even think I needed that. I don't mind if you go, well, that's very restrictive. We can make a more multicultural movie than just those three heritages. Like, I know that's the intent of the show, but let's mix it up. Because that's what the producer of this movie have said in its defense, by the way. They've said they don't understand the criticism because every nation in their film is multicultural with a mix of races and ethnicities. Maybe when it comes to the background characters, but all of your leads are problematically white. And what I think maybe the answer was, if you're telling me your answer was, well, we wanted it all to be multicultural, cool. You're right. It is a little bit restrictive from casting perspective to say every Fire Nation person has to be of Japanese descent. I totally get that. Fine. Mix it up then. Just mix it up. Properly mix it up. Don't... Yeah. In a show that is so respectful to cultures that aren't Western cultures, why is 90% of the characters... And so, not just respectful, but like interested in the culture of, actively exploring the cultures of. It feels shitty that you gave the major parts of this movie to nothing but white actors.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. It's very short-sighted and very mismanaged. Not the actors' fault. Again, no targeting the actors here. They all did the best what they could. But casting and producers, they have something to answer for here, I think.
Yeah, especially when it's such a celebrated part of the show. Like, right. It's such a bizarre misstep, because you just go, and hey, 10 years ago, maybe that's a factor here, but like, you just go, how do you not see that as something that you should also do? How do you not go, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you not go, well, that was fucking awesome, that range of diversity, let's do it here. And there is, like you say, there is diversity in the film, but how no executive went, is it not weird that we've actively made the good guys white and kept the ethnicity
people of colour or of different heritages,
people of colour as the villains.
Yeah.
Like, how did no executive in 2010 make that point and have that discussion and go, even if this isn't our intent, because we don't know, what their intent was, and I doubt it was overtly, racist or whatever.
No, I don't think anyone ever sat down and went, right, get me whiteys.
Yeah,
like no one,
exactly,
no one
exactly.
Ever, but the lack of consideration
how does no one not go,
it is stunning.
Yeah. How does no one go, this is how this looks?
Yeah, or how does no one go, well, it's a show that celebrates different cultures. Maybe we should explore actors of different cultures to be part of that.
Yeah.
I just honestly can't. I just, like you, I fail to understand how we could have gotten into a situation where they didn't know that's what that was. And even just on, all right, let's just say you're a racist piece of shit and you don't care, right? They're not, obviously. I don't think that's what happened here. I think this is just ignorance. But even in a world where they're outright racist and not just blind, wouldn't you want to cover it up?
Yeah.
You would. Like, that's why I know they probably weren't like overtly racist, because I think if an overt racist might have done an actual better job at casting this movie with the people of different cultures to cover up their racism. Because just as a part of me just goes, you'd go, oh shit, look what we've done. We should at least cast some people of different ethnicities.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, yeah, of course, it's just such a misstep, and
it's very bad.
It's horrible, and it takes away something so special about the TV show, and obviously you're not, you shouldn't compare, but I don't know why trying to emulate the things that are special about the TV show is such an easy and obvious win. I don't know why they didn't attempt to do it.
Yeah, and it doesn't escape me that I know a lot of the characters in the show are voiced by white actors too. I am aware of that, but like, the culture and the where the characters are drawn, like the multiculturalness is still there, even if they in terms of the casting, there's a heavy leaning that way. I think maybe that's why they didn't think of it. They just looked at the cast of the show and went, okay. So I don't know. It's weird. I do struggle with it. It's a shame. But like one of 1,000 missteps. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, top to bottom, this movie was a shit show on all fronts. It's awful. I can't imagine anyone getting it more wrong on every other level. Can you?
Cut to the Netflix.
There's no way. I'm sorry. It can't be worse. I'm not saying the Netflix show will be good, but I don't see how it could be worse.
No, neither do I.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the bottom of the barrel has surely been reached. I mean, I tell you what, if the show is somehow worse than the movie, then like we need to start maybe turning to religion, Chris, for my understanding of what's gone so wrong here.
My takeaway is thus: I expected to be, I didn't expect to be so angry. And it's because nothing's got weight, nothing makes sense, all the things we've talked about. But that's my big thing. Like, I expected it to be a bad movie. I didn't expect it to be so insulting of everyone's intelligence.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I guess my takeaway is similar. It's, Avatar The Last Airbender, sure, it's not a great adaptation of that TV show, but you got to admit, it's also a very terrible movie in its own right. that's my takeaway.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not even the comparison, because that's the thing. As an experiment, I would love at some point when I can bear it to watch it with someone that's never seen the TV show.
Yeah, they wouldn't have an understanding at all.
And that's the thing, you got to make it accessible, and this ain't that.
Sorry. I've just looked through my notes to see if there's anything else, because this is normally the point in the podcast where you'll say any other notes down. And at one point, I literally just wrote.
I could do that if you want. Hold on. Any other notes down?
Well, yeah, Chris. I was just glancing through them to see. We've actually covered most of what I wrote down while watching this. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you can tell when I got off the bike, like what the sort of hour in, because the notes get longer. Like, my first notes are book 1, optimistic. Movie's attempts at humor, bad. Ong, Iroh, and Sokka. And then Sokka is dour. No sense of fun. Exposition, the movie. Everything is awkward still. And then they start getting longer. like when I get to certain points. But I genuinely wrote during the last action sequence, Chris, I don't give a shit about any of this. That's a note. and
you're not wrong, Dan.
Go on.
That sums it up very well.
Yeah, well, I think another example of what sums up how much I wasn't enjoying or how little I was invested, because I've always said character is super important to movies, even when you don't think it is, because if you care about the characters, then you get invested in the outcome of the plot around the characters, right? When you're not invested in the characters, the plot is just a bunch of colours and lights, like dangling keys in front of a baby. It may briefly entertain you, but it doesn't have any of that depth. You don't get invested. You don't care, right? And genuinely, Chris, and I forgot about this until just now we got to this point. There was a point in the film, Chris, around the time Aang and Zuko were fighting at the Northern Air Temple. They were chasing each other about a bit, where had to rewind the movie, I think about 4 times, because I wasn't taking it in. So I'd be watching.
It's easily done.
My eyes glazed over. I stopped paying attention. It was just colours and noises. And then we'd be at a scene much later in the movie. And I'd go, fuck, I have no idea what just happened. And if tomorrow in the review I say, they don't even cover this, and Chris goes, well, they explained it in this line, and I missed it, I'll feel like a dickhead. And I want to give the movie, I want to have seen the whole movie. So I went back to where I'd glazed over and hit play. And then at the exact same moment, I regained consciousness again and went, fuck, it happened again. And I swear, Chris, it happened, I think at minimum 3, but possibly 4 times with the exact same section of movie, where my brain just switched off and I had to force myself, like hand on head, just like, no, watch it, pay attention. You know what I needed? I needed the machine from Clockwork Orange that has my eyes held open to take it in properly. That's bad. That's, I think, when I wrote, I don't give a shit about any of this.
There's nothing, unfortunately, there's nothing to give a shit about in it.
No, there really isn't. It is dreadful on every single conceivable level, with the exception, I think, of some of the music's good. And I think the art direction is pretty solid for the time. I mean, I think if you do it now, you'd make it a little less flat in some of those scenes. But, you know.
Yeah, and I'd add to that I think the cast unfairly get blamed for this, and I don't.
The cast are not the problem, for sure. Well, I mean, the cast are the problem when you look at it, diversity, but the cast themselves as individuals are not responsible for the mess that this is.
No, they're not responsible for that decision, and they're not responsible for the editing or the dialogue they were given to say.
Or the bad special effects, or the weird choice to make all the bending super slow and boring. How do you make bending boring, Chris? Like
well, that's what I mean. You said it yourself. You said there the special effects or the decision to make the bending boring. Well, the actual bending itself, if sped up, do you know what I mean? It doesn't look like fake fire particularly. Like when the fire comes out of Iroh's hands, that looks fucking sweet. Like, yes. But it's just executed weirdly. Like
very slow and stilted, and it's weird to see action that's slow and stilted.
Am I misremembering? Is that a big deal in the show? Like the notion of someone being able to generate fire or water or whatever they're bending?
It's an addition to the movie. So basically, it's another point where he's overcomplicated his own movie. So in the show, firebenders can create fire from nothing. But
Shyamalan, can they?
Waterbenders cannot, no. Well, it's a little bit more complicated. The reason is, in the show, is that you can't make water, but you could, if you could spark it, ignite air. Like fire is the fuel and the spark, right?
Yeah,
like it's
enough. Yeah,
you know, so you can't create water; it has to exist. But you can theoretically create. You could create fire. I could set this room on fire right now quite easily, but if there's no water in it, I ain't getting water out of it.
How would you go about setting the room on fire?
Well, I'd need the spark. Which the idea is the firebenders can create the spark.
I do the podcast with 2 sticks, Chris, but next to me I could just pick up these sticks here.
Or if I get a magnifying glass, I could fucking ant it. You know, I'll burn the ants with the magnifying glass thing. And my point is,
how different is the weather there? That we're both in England. I ain't got enough fucking sun to magnify flames.
No, I have a sky so grey, so overcast that it might as well be night.
We're in this really weird period in Britain at the moment, for context, where it's I suppose this is going up near the time, but it's been literally sunshine, need sun cream one day, and then snowing the next, and everyone is like, oh, quirky weather, instead of going, oh, fucking hell, this is climate change, people.
I think the worst one, it's even worse than that. It wasn't even the next day. There was a day last week where it was glorious sunshine in the morning, and then it was snowing by the afternoon, and I was like, "That's mental."
Yeah, but it's just insane. People, no one going, "Oh, we fucked it." Like, I know people have been saying that for years, but like, you know, it's the fact that just leads to a reaction of, "Huh, check out this weather," not, "Oh fuck, we we have destroyed the environment. Shit.
Yeah, you know it's really bad. You know the weather's really unpredictable. When yesterday, and I swear this is true, I was going to post this on Instagram today. I'll see if I remember. I'll put the picture in the. I took a screenshot of it. I'll put the picture in the video if I remember. I googled weather because me and Nadia were going for a walk yesterday evening. And the first thing that it comes up with was Google asking me the question: is it raining/snowing now? And I'm like, bitch, I came here to get that answer from you. Like, what are you doing? And the fact that Google couldn't even tell me if it was currently raining or snowing on my head was genuinely a sign of the times.
God. Anyway, right.
So yeah,
so you can create, right. So that's
in the show, firebenders can spontaneously create fire, but he obviously looked at that and went, well, waterbenders can't. So why can firebenders? So he's trying to adjust the mythology here, because then he goes, well, actually, that's also the way I can make firebenders more powerful under the comet, and also make Iroh look more powerful. The idea is under the comet, we'll all be able to just generate fire. But then it makes the movie have all these weird scenes where there's a bunch of firebenders in the Northern Water Tribe, and they have to catapult in a big rock on fire for them to draw fire from to throw at the waterbenders. Which is like such an obvious weakness. Like the waterbenders could just throw water or bend water onto the ball that's on fire, and then the firebenders would have no fire to weaponize. When Zuko goes to fight Katara, he has to light the grass on fire to then have that fire to throw at her. Like, it's just so many points in the movie, it overcomplicates simple things.
Yeah,
that choice. Very strange. Very, very strange. So yeah, it's an addition to the movie that makes almost no sense. I sort of understand the thinking, sort of. It's come from a place of, well, why can waterbenders do that but firebenders can't? But like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think that's the question anyone would be asking.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So should we hit the triv? And let's fucking wrap this bad boy up.
All right.
So, creators of the show, Michael and Bri, as we've previously discussed.
Mikey and Bri.
Mikey and Bri, served as executive producers and were initially supportive of the idea of the film. However, both of them ended up kind of being unsatisfied with the finished product, unsurprisingly. In an interview in 2014, a couple of years after this film came out, Bri himself revealed that, one, they didn't initially want it to be done at all. Before there was anybody attached or anything, they were sort of against the idea of doing a big cinematic, feature film for it. They just didn't think the story could. It seems like they didn't think the story could compress into an hour and a half or a 2-hour movie, which I guess they were right. Yeah. And then the second thing, they said if it was going to be done, they kind of wanted to do it themselves, but Nickelodeon simply weren't going to let them be in charge of the script or anything. I guess unproven in that field. But yeah, I think. In the field of filmmaking, sure, but maybe let them have a crack at the script. I mean, they've done that. They've written.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
But maybe that's just me. When M. Night Shyamalan was attached, Bri said that we thought, well, this is just the hand we've been dealt. We'll offer help when it's asked of us, but if not, we'll stay away. And in the beginning, apparently, they had a very positive relationship and they offered help. But then apparently, and it's unclear on what grounds, but they had some sort of what was described as a big falling out with M. Night over elements of the movie plot. I don't know what, but
plot, visuals, casting.
I mean, whatever it will take your pick. Any of the things that are broken with this movie, and they apparently gave they'd given a lot of input both when things were good and then obviously as things got turned sour, and not any nothing they said was basically used in the final product. So yeah, they were basically, they're producers in almost name only and nothing else. Which, not shocking, really, having seen the final product, to be honest with you. So the film was intended to be the first part of a trilogy, and the next two films being based on books 2 and 3. M. Night was already writing book 2, apparently. But the film did make a little bit of profit. So its final box office total was $320 million. But the movie had cost, when you add the production budget to the marketing... Oh, this is one of those rare examples, by the way, where we actually know what was spent on marketing. I don't know how this information is out there, because very rarely do they reveal this. But people always say the rule of thumb is double the budget for marketing, right? But so few movies reveal their marketing, you don't know how true that is. But I've got the breakdown. So they spent 150 million producing the film physically, and it's possible it's 160 if you include the 3D conversion. It's not. No one's sure if that 150 includes the 3D conversion or if that's another 10 million on top of that. So, that shuffles the numbers, potentially 10 million either way. And then the advertising costs was 130 million, which is just under half. Like, it's 20 million shy of half. So that does make that rule seem like it probably is accurate to double the budget if you want to know how much they spent on advertising. That would bring the total cost to about 280 million. So they made, depending on whether that 10 million or not, their profit was 30 to 40 million. Which, when you've invested 280 million, not a great return on your investment, is it?
No.
I mean, they made some money. I mean, and look, $30 to $40 million is not no money. It's enough money to potentially fund another small project, but still.
That's not book 2 money, is it?
It's not, because there's always diminishing returns with sequels too. So that almost made it a guarantee the sequel would lose the money in the way I view it, because there's no way the sequel does as well. Also, it had a bad reputation, bad reviews. You know what I mean? Like, you make a sequel to a movie that's had bad reviews, it's not going to do as well as the previous one if people didn't like it, if people weren't fond of it. So the decision to not make more makes a lot of sense when you look at the figures.
Yeah.
I think.
I was going to say, because I tried to find, footage of, Dev Patel reflecting on it, and I just couldn't find any. Have you seen any of that? I suppose a lot of the younger actors didn't go on to do other things, so you wouldn't get it. But Dev Patel just being like, yeah.
Yeah, so on the subject of Dev Patel, so he has, according to the trivia, he has since discussed being very disappointed with the final product. But it's interesting because originally he submitted a tape to the studio auditioning for Zuko, but this was before he'd even been in Slumdog.
Right. Okay.
And on the set of Slumdog, he was watching episodes of Avatar in his when he was getting little breaks. So he became quite a fan of the show, and he really wanted to do it. And it was funny because apparently Dante Basco, who voices Zuko in the series, wanted to play Zuko in the film. And the producers were actually okay with that. But M. Night himself had already chosen Dev Patel. And sort of there was a concern about Basco being in his 30s, being a little too old to portray a teenager in the live-action movie. Which is weird, because Jackson Rathbone, who played Sokka, is 10 years older than Sokka and the actress playing Katara.
Oh, wow.
And no one seemed to have a problem with that. So I guess you could have brought in Dante Basco to be Zuko. I'd have been cool with that. I like Dante Basco a lot. At some point, he is going to come up on Rewind Reviews, because at some point we're going to watch Hook, and I love that movie, and I love Dante Basco in that movie. So yeah, I couldn't actually find the evidence that's referenced in the trivia that's out there. So, I mean, one of the trivia, I'm going to read it directly. On the set of the previous movie, Slumdog Millionaire, whenever Dev Patel had free time on set, he would watch episodes of the series to prepare for the role as Zuko, but he later expressed dissatisfaction with the film. I desperately tried to find this, Chris. Evidently having the same level of interest as you into how he feels about it. Couldn't actually find it myself. I don't know if he spoke on a podcast or in an interview. Could not narrow it down. But you're not wrong that evidently, well, according to this, at some point he has indicated that he wasn't pleased with how the film turned out, which is, again, fair.
Yeah, you imagine. I mean, I guess to get success as being an interviewer, you can't do stuff like just go. Because that'd be my first question. I'd be like, "Hey, Dev, loved you in Lion. By the way, what do you think of the Last Airbender?"
Yeah,
loved you.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I would also want to ask him about that. I mean, he's great. Like, I really like him. We just saw him a couple months back. We just watched what's the Armando Iannucci film we just did? The David Copperfield. David Copperfield movie.
Yeah, he was like the newsroom as well. Dev Patel's brilliant.
Yeah,
Stunning.
he's always good. And to be fair, I think he is probably one of the actors that comes out of this film best as well. And I think it's partly it's twofold. His character gets the most actual character development, like where they actually spend time trying to make his character make sense in the movie. But also, I think he is obviously clearly, and this is no slight to the other actors, but he is one of the most talented actors on this set. So he managed to make it work a little more than the other actors who are a bit greener. Particularly, I do feel bad for the Noah Ringer who played Ong, because he was a Taekwondo kid. He wasn't an actor. But he'd submitted after some friends had told him that he thought he kind of looked like the character. And when there was rumors of the movie coming along, they made him submit tape of himself doing flips and airbendy stuff with a completely shaved head and the arrow tattoo painted on his forehead, and they submitted that to Paramount. And apparently that video is what got him the role. He's done one role since, a small part in Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah, but if he was a martial arts guy, maybe he didn't want to.
Yeah, maybe.
I what I mean?
I hold hands up. I genuinely don't know. I have no idea. But he hasn't done anything since other than that. And I will say as well that like Paramount were a bit nervous about putting a not actor in the lead role of this movie, and made him do acting lessons ahead of it. And so again, though, in a case where you go, well, his performance is bad because he's not a professional actor. If that's your argument, which I think as well, I do think, as I've said, I do think these actors are doing their best, as we've clarified. There's an element of the directors needed to step in, casting needed to step in. That's my point. They shouldn't have, if they were concerned about putting a non-actor in the role, don't cast a non-actor. Like,
completely.
Like, what are you doing? Because that's not the kid's fault.
I completely blame them.
Yeah.
Not the actors.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, Zac Efron auditioned for the part of Soccer, and M. Night offered him the role, but he had to turn it down in the end, based on scheduling conflicts. Worth noting, another white actor. And maybe the whitest actor on earth, Zac Efron.
Yeah, I don't think that would have done it any favours.
No. Is there a whiter man than Zac Efron?
But then, you could look back on that. I remember as a kid being, livid at the notion of Leonardo DiCaprio playing Anakin in Star Wars. And I look back now and go, actually, I wouldn't have. Again, I don't blame Hayden Christensen so much for that either. I blame the script. But part of me's like, I'd quite like to see what Leo would have done with that.
Yeah, but he probably wouldn't have been able to do a lot more than...
No. And it might have tanked Leonardo DiCaprio's career, but it would be that alternative world where Hayden Christensen was in The Revenant and The Wolf of Wall Street.
So one little bit of thing where they did bring back somebody from the show, Dee Bradley Baker, who voices Appa and Momo in the TV series, got to provide their grunts and squeaks and chirps for this movie. Anyone who doesn't know, Dee Bradley Baker... Not many. What's that, sorry?
Not many.
No, not many. Neither character is massively included, but it is nice that they went to the original voice actor for that. Anyone who isn't aware, Dee Bradley Baker is one of the unsung heroes of animation. His voice is in so many things. He's very good. He obviously gets to voice a lot of like characters as well, like with actual voices and dialogue. But he is a master of creating animal sounds. He's got a bit of a history of that, and you wouldn't believe that Appa and Momo were the same voice, but they are, and that's Dee, who's just wonderful. So I'm glad they got him in for the film. I think that's nice. So cool. Seychelles Gabrielle, who plays Princess Yue in this movie with her unfortunately penis-shaped hair, later got to be a part of the proper Avatar canon. She gets to voice a character, Asami Sato, in Legend of Korra, which obviously a character you don't know yet, Chris. But when we get there, maybe I'll point her out specifically. But she's a reasonably important character to Legend of Korra, and I thought that was nice that she got to. Clearly a fan of the franchise. I don't know, or if it's just coincidence that her her agent kept putting her up for roles related to it. But because initially I was going to say clearly a fan, but who knows? She might maybe her agent is. I don't know. But I think it's nice that she got to come back to the world.
Yeah.
So there you go. Apparently the film was originally going to be titled Avatar: The Last Airbender after the TV show, but James Cameron was already working on, or had already worked on, because it came out first, I think, 2009's Avatar, and was not happy about the potential for confusion there. So his lawyers made them back down. Which is fair.
Which is why it's just The Last Airbender, isn't it?
Correct. That's exactly why it's just The Last Airbender. I think he actually also tried to go after the show, but there was no grounds for that. Based on the lack of... There wouldn't be much confusion. I think the argument was made there couldn't be much confusion between this animated kids TV show and his movies.
Also, didn't the show come first?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so what?
My understanding is he was real pissed that name had been taken.
Jesus.
But he won with the film, so he got his way there at least. But yeah.
That's so weird to me. Like, you can't be pissed off. The show came first.
Yeah, and also notice that, Legend of Korra isn't called Avatar Legend of Korra, it's called Legend of Korra.
Jeez.
So anyway,
Cameron does some stuff, doesn't he? Sometimes where you're just like, "Oh, you a bit of a dick." Seems like you might be.
Definitely. Noah Ringer, who played Aang, his mother apparently visited the set several times because she wanted to make sure he was being treated well by the crew and that the stunt work wasn't risking her son because he was a child. I mean, I do respect the choice to hire someone so young to play Aang. I think that's weirdly true to the original character. I guess my fear as a fan at the time was that they were going to cast an older kid, a teenager.
Speaking of, sorry, I know we're diversing from Trip, but I just want to make sure I asked this question and forgot to, because I've seen the trailers, and as we talked about in other places, I remember you showing me the trailer and really excited,
the Super Bowl trailer.
not personally not giving a shit. What was this like in the cinema for you? Was it Phantom Menace, where you're like, it wasn't that bad, and then the more you thought about it, the more you were like, no, it was a fucking disaster? Or was it just sinking feeling, oh, shit, throughout?
Yeah, sinking feeling throughout until just dismay. And I don't even think it took me long to get to dismay, because it's very quickly obvious where it's gone wrong. I mean, I have a distinct memory of kind of excusing the awkward, stilted initial Katara soccer scene in my head and just going, okay, it's just one scene, don't worry about it. And then, I was like, well, here's the visuals of Aang coming out of the ice, and that looks okay. So we're there, I think. And then it's lots of very awkward talking and lots of really heavy-handed exposition. And I just remember thinking, okay, maybe they just crammed all the exposition into the first act, and it'll ease up, and it'll even out.
Because of course, at that point, I suppose you've had the reviews, and you know that the general vibe is not good.
I don't remember. See, I don't remember, because I feel like I was very excited for this. I think there's a chance I saw this movie opening day. I was very, very excited. So whether I had taken in the full disaster that this was from internet culture or not, I don't know. But I do very distinctly remember every minute that passed by feeling less hope that it was ever getting better. Does that make sense? Because like I said, I remember when they're when they're at the Southern Water Tribe, and it's just exposition everywhere, trying to go, okay, they're getting it all out of the way so that we can have a cleaner movie later, right? They're catching up the new viewers. You've never seen the show. They're just going to explain everything, which is awkward and not great. But if it frees them up to just tell the story and have the fun adventure that needs to come after this, then I'll put up with a wobbly first act. But it just kept going. I very distinctly remember just like you nailed it actually with sinking feeling. I think that is exactly it. Which every scene that passed going, this isn't getting better. This isn't getting better.
Yeah.
This isn't getting better. And that's the thing is, as I said, good art direction. You can make a pretty good trailer out of this. They did. I remember watching the Super Bowl trailer, which was Aang putting out a bunch of candles, I think, just spinning around and using airbending to put out candles. I don't know if you saw that trailer when you were doing your...
Yeah, I've seen it since, yeah.
That trailer was the one that I went and showed you, just like, wasn't this a great... just like, I was so excited. And again, you can disguise the mess this is, I think, with a good trailer, because the art direction's not bad and the special effects in places aren't bad. If you edit it well enough, you can create an exciting looking trailer for this absolutely abysmal film. So I think I remember feeling very strongly afterwards they had succeeded in the marketing at the very least, because it really did disguise. There were some warning signs, I guess, in the in the trailers looking back, but like they disguised the true situation very well. So yeah, I also remember a lot of teetering in the screening. There were a lot of people giggling every time the word bender was said, because in the UK, we've talked about this before, but in the UK, the word bender was a slang term for people who are gay. It's not a great term. It's often used derogatorily, but it is inherently funny to hear a word that has that context on it being used in a Nickelodeon kids film. Like,
I suppose, yeah.
It's just, do you know what I mean? Because it is just lack of cultural and like mixing. Do you know what I mean? It's like we talked about in the Aunt Wu episode. He'll be a powerful bender. That's funny. I'm sorry, because what's funny about it to me isn't the use of that very problematic word. It's just funny the lack of, because that's not a thing over there. This word that has all these connotations in the UK could just be casually uttered in a kids movie or a kids show.
But you'd assume, especially if you saw it opening night, you'd assume it was fans that had already.
Yeah, it wasn't like uproarious laughter. It was teetering. So it was. I think it was fans dragging their friends along. I think. Look, let's be honest, Chris. If I'd have dragged you back then to this movie, and you didn't know what was going on, you'd never seen the show, and you heard the line, "Look out, he's a bender," with no context for the idea of bending elements, but knowledge of the English slang term bender.
Yeah, fair point.
And I've written that line down. That's a line in the movie.
Yeah. You've won me over to your argument there.
Yeah, I think you would have giggled out of confusion, maybe awkwardness. I don't know, but it is. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I definitely remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, moving back to the trope. Now I've described the horror of watching this film at a cinema.
Sorry, I was just fascinated by that.
What was that, sorry?
I was just fascinated by that. Sorry.
No, I'm glad I got to explain, because I do think that experience, I imagine, is going to feel very relatable to a lot of people listening who went through that with me. We were not alone. That room. I feel like you could cut that tension with a knife, because I think it was like it would have been a high percentage fans and then a percentage of people who had no investment at all teetering at Bender, and like that's a weird energy. Do you know what I mean? Like
creates a weird vibe in the room.
It really does, because all you want is your friends to understand this thing you love. You take them to the movie adaptation. I think I must have went. I can't remember who I went with. I either went alone or I went with someone who was already in on it. I don't remember, but or maybe I went with Nadia.
Yeah, because 2010 would have been. When in 2010, I suppose, was it?
Yeah, but I can't remember if I maybe took Nadia.
Look it up.
Because she sat through a lot of movies. She slept through the Serenity Firefly movie just so I could go see it. So like,
that's a good movie, even if you've not. No, no, that's the UK. The Last Airbender film UK release.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, it came out in September 2015. What? Hold on, Dan. I mean, it's not relevant, but it came out in the United States in July 2010. So
a month or two later for us, probably.
Yeah, so maybe we weren't. Maybe that would have been we'd have been gone from uni.
Yeah.
Maybe we did watch it with Nadia.
Yeah,
so I can't remember you going.
No, which I feel like you probably would, because I talked about it endlessly in the build-up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember you going to see other films I didn't see with you, like Nowhere Boy or whatever it was called. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So moving back to the trivia, Hairstyles. They were initially trying to give Katara the hair loopies, the famous hair loopies, for the film. But once they were starting to actually get into production, the actress was having a lot of issues with them, like constantly getting in her eyes. So she'd be trying to deliver dialogue, but then her hair loopy would be falling into her face. So she'd be having to constantly push it out, which was like becoming a problem. And then the action scenes as well, it was a no-go. So they had to change them to have them sort of there, but pulled back further against their head. So they are kind of there, but they don't look like they do in the show. I don't mind that. I don't care. Like, the hair loopies aren't important to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
I appreciate that they tried to give her the hair loopies, but don't work. Get rid of the hair loopies. No, I have no problem with that. According to M. Night Shyamalan, now this is the one I've been waiting to get to, because this is insane. According to M. Night Shyamalan, the mispronunciation of the names of the characters, Aang, Sokka, the word Avatar, Iroh, etc., is due to the fact that he wished to honour the source material by using Asian pronunciations. What?
Yeah, you know how I'd honour the source material? By doing it the same as the source material.
Correct.
That's the tact I'd personally take. Maybe I'm a maverick, but yeah.
You're a crazy man, Chris. What do you mean honour the source material by honouring the source material? You fucking lunatic. God. Isn't that bad? But I do love the turn. I do love the turn with M. Night, because in spring of 2010, before the film's release, and possibly before they chopped 30 minutes out to make it cheaper to convert to 3D, he was quoted by Entertainment Weekly as saying The Last Airbender was his best movie.
Oh.
Gets better. 9 years later, in a lecture at NYU's Stern School of Business, he publicly disowned this film. And After Earth, the movie he made in 2013, calling them both junk movies. He added, I did a couple of huge big-budget CGI movies. There has always been this inexorable pull to join that group, a constant seduction in the form of whatever you want to tally, in the form of money or safety, ease, not getting criticised. I did these movies, and I rightfully got crushed. He then added, you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in your own voice, and you don't believe in your values. I felt really lost. Oh yeah, that is that. For a minute I thought I'd misread that. No, that's exactly what he says. I felt really lost. It just didn't work. There's probably something Darwinian about all of this. Poor man. That's awful. That is a man defeated.
Yeah,
oh man,
definitely.
What a shame.
And you never know, what's going on with people, and they might have felt that way even when the film came out.
Right.
You've got to play the game, haven't you? You've got to promote and generate excitement. Yeah, he's not wrong.
No, it's
not a good movie.
Yeah,
but
clearly he's not suited to that kind of filmmaking. I think that's fair. Yeah. Although I think a good starting point for this one might have been to write a script properly, and not this method of writing a script by basically writing all 20 episodes into a 7-hour behemoth and then trimming it down was a terrible approach. Start with a simple version of that series' plot and fill that out into a script. Don't start with more material than you need, because you're only going to make a confusing mess of a movie.
Yeah.
It's like a bad decision was made right up top that cascaded through everything else.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So yeah, I've already mentioned it, but a scene involving the Kyoshi warriors and the introduction of Suki, who was played by Jessica Jane Anders, was filmed, and even a promotional poster featuring Suki was released, but was removed from the final cut. As already mentioned, almost 30 minutes of footage was cut from the theatrical release by Paramount Pictures because they wanted to do the conversion to 3D as quickly and therefore as cheaply as possible. Nickelodeon did not give the film any nominations in its own 2011 Kids' Choice Awards. despite it being their movie.
Amazing.
That says a lot. And apparently,
have they got a history of that though? To be fair, like, did Good Burger or Harriet the Spy? You can look it up. Get a lot of
While I read the next one, you
nominations.
look that up. That is a very good point. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they made a point of not doing that. Maybe they wanted to preserve the integrity of the Kids' Choice Awards.
Well, exactly, Dan. Exactly.
Yeah, you might.
It is amazing. I randomly. I think it was when I was watching this, but hold on. Have I got Nickelodeon Movies? It is actually certainly later, like, a more impressive list than you realise. Like, so they did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Out of the Shadows, and those movies. The Michael Bay ones. They did, obviously, the SpongeBob SquarePants movies, The Adventures of Tintin, Rango. Like, they've not always been a success. Angus Thongs and Perfect Snoggin's all right as a film. But they have done some fairly big movies.
I didn't mind Out of the Shadows. Out of the Shadows was like just madness on screen. Like, the first Turtles movie was like trying to take the characters really seriously. Those two like live action ones. It was trying to make them like dark and gritty. It was trying to Dark Knight the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It just doesn't work. They're inherently stupid. That's the point. They were a parody when they were written. They were a parody of Batman and Daredevil and all these overtly dark characters. And then the second movie, it seems, just went, all right, it's fucking mental. So I actually thought the second movie was kind of weirdly enjoyable. Like, not a good... Look, on no objective scale is it a good movie. But, like, I actually quite enjoyed the second one because it just felt like they went, let's just have fun with it. And if you're having fun, I'm having fun, right? Like, I had a good time watching the second one, even though I know objectively it's a bad movie. And they included a bunch of stuff from the cartoons from my childhood that I didn't think I'd ever see on live action. Bebop and Rocksteady, the fucking Technodrome. I'm gonna defend that last Turtles movie because I thought it was fun.
I think I have let me just
little mini
check.
review of a movie that no one asked for me to review.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I can't see accolades for that. Let me just tick this one more. Right. So, Dan.
Yes.
Yeah. No. To be fair, so the movie, in fact, so Out of Shadows was nominated for the Golden Raspberry, but then also both the 2016 and 2017 Kids' Choice Awards, which is quite impressive. Megan Fox and Stephen are now nominated in 2016, and then for some reason it nominated for favourite movie actress, movie actor, and squad. I didn't win any of them. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Out of Water, was also nominated in the Kids' Choice Awards for favourite movie and favourite animated movie. Again, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just two things for accolades, a bunch of nominations for Golden Raspberries, and then a Kids' Choice nomination for favourite movie, favourite actor. So I think you could argue they potentially are a little biased. That triv is fair.
Yeah, because not only that, but it's
won that.
But on that subject of the Golden Raspberries, it tied with Twilight Saga Eclipse for the most Golden Raspberry nominations at the 2011 Razzie Awards.
I think this is worse than Twilight Eclipse. Twilight Eclipse is trying.
Each film apparently had 9 nominations. Airbender was nominated for every category, with the exception of Worst Actor and Worst Actress. The movie ended up winning 5 of the Razzies it was nominated for, including Worst Film of the Year, apparently Jason Rathbone got Worst Supporting for Soccer, but he was also in Twilight Saga Eclipse, so he was in both movies.
He had a bad year.
That is a bad year. So he got the Worst Supporting Actor trophy for that year, and God knows for which of the 2 films, truthfully. Right, so I'm going to say it again, Chris. What is this? A crossover episode? We're bringing my world-famous segment from Rewind Reviews into essentially a bonus episode of Analysing Avatar. Chris, are you ready for a piece of trivia that was handed to me? And it's not really trivia related to the movie, it just sort of is. But it was just in the film's trivia at IMDb, and I went, I'm fucking having that. Chris,
Go on.
you ready for Cars Exist?
Yeah.
The release of this movie prompted a group of fans to remodel a 1985 Chevy Astro van into an Appa lookalike known as the Appamobile.
I was just like, in my head, I was just like, if there's a car in this movie, it would have come up before now. Because you'd be like, almost the first thing we'd say is, what was that scene with the car about?
Yeah, Appa breaks down, so they just get in a.
Don't. I feel like we've not done enough of that, like pointing at just awful moments. But oh god, we'd need a miracle to get them. Yeah, we'd need. There's no way of getting to him. It would take so much. Ooh, what's that noise? Flying Appa. Oh, fuck off.
Yeah. My favourite one of those, just like mental moments that you just like, how did this end up the movie? Like the nitpicky ones that were like, there are so many of. Like you could do a whole, or we could do a whole other podcast nitpicking the movie. Like these were all general, broad, legitimate criticisms, I feel, of the movie structure and approach and all the things that don't work about the storytelling techniques used here. But there's a whole other podcast we could do of just like, do you remember that bit where, and then saying insane things that happen? Yeah. My favourite of them, though, for me, your example is another good one, by the way. It's a good example of just weirdness of this movie. But the one that really cracked me up was it's Katara's narration. And she goes, Sokka became concerned we were being followed. And the visual that goes along with her saying that is Sokka looking off to the forest. And there's a big black plume of smoke.
Yeah.
Sokka became concerned we were being followed.
Yeah. The voiceover should have been, Sokka noticed that we were definitely being followed. That whole rebellion montage really
terrible.
wound me up.
It's
like,
bad.
just appalling.
Yeah, it's really bad. I've looked up a picture of the Appamobile, by the way, and I'm sorry. I respect these guys. They're obviously fans of the show. But the Appamobile, first of all, it shouldn't have been in the trivia for this movie. It's nothing to do with the movie. But I included it so I could do my world famous segment.
There's been, we've had like promotional external stuff before. And
but this isn't promotional. This is some fans. This is a fan thing.
Yeah, but if you were looking at the trivia page for Chuck, it would be like, there was a massive Subway campaign with Chuck. And
but that affected the actual show. This is just some people that put an arrow on a car. Because I've looked at it, and that is what it is. Look, I respect their love, but it is a van that they've put a brown arrow on.
Let me look it up. What did you look up?
I just put the Appamobile and then hit images. And look, it's fine. There's a picture of one of the people who did it dressed as Korra with it. There's a picture of one of them dressed as Aang stood on it, which is fun. There's one where they've put a little, they've okay, that one's pretty fun. There's one where they've built a thing for the roof that looks like Appa's. That one looks like they put more effort in. They've built like a little thing on the roof that they can get in that looks like that saddle Appa has. But mostly it's just a car with a brown arrow on it. I'll put the pictures in the video version.
I found it here. Yeah. That's some cool. They had some fun though. That's sweet.
Yeah, it doesn't really need to be the truth.
Oh, it does look cool. It does look cool when you see it from the front and the side angle. Like the picture with the boy in there as well. Like it does kind of feel like Appa.
I guess. it's a van with arrows on it. No, like these people seem like nice people.
You ever put an arrow on a van, Dan?
No, you've caught me. You've actually caught me.
They were really taken on board before that Appa has an arrow on his head.
I'm
This is me finding that out or taking that in. This is me going, oh yeah.
It looks like it, and I can't. Is this right? Okay, I tell you what. I take it back. I take it all back, Chris. There's a picture here that implies its license plate is Yip Yip.
Yeah, no, I've got that here. Yeah, that's genius then.
All right, they win. You've made the license plate Yip Yip. You're the winner. I don't care. Like that is fantastic. Wait, so you didn't notice Appa has an arrow on his head?
I probably noticed it, but if you'd have asked me to draw Appa, I don't know if I'd have drawn an Appa or an arrow.
What would you have drawn? I don't understand.
Just a big old.
Have you now Googled Appa to see?
Yeah, it comes up. It's coming up next to what I googled for that because I couldn't spell Appamobile, so I ended up having to Google the Appa fan car Last Airbender film, and that I found the Pinterest thing with the.
Appamobile is APPA mobile. I don't know.
I think I put Appa Mobile and just got a bunch of pictures of him flying.
Well, he is mobile. That is fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man! So yeah, I can't believe I managed to get a Cars Exist into that.
That's brilliant.
I was very happy when I saw that. It was in the trivia. And you know what? Again, if that picture isn't lying to me and its license plate really is Yip Yip, because it's only visible in one of the pictures, frustratingly. But that's amazing.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for them. If you're listening to this, you guys are my heroes as far as I'm concerned.
Anyway, so that I guess is everything. I mean, what a fucking terrible movie, but quite a fun podcast. I did enjoy. I must admit, Chris, I did enjoy your anger because
it's so bad.
It's because it's that satisfying for me on two levels. Because one, it shows how into the show you've become. Which is nice, because, you know, we've only watched a season yet, and I would argue the weakest of the 3 seasons of the show. And before anyone gets out their pitchforks, weakest, not bad, just weakest comparatively to the others. So,
and presumably you're just talking about Avatar, not Korra.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Korra's. I've never actually thought about ranking the Korra seasons amongst the Avatar seasons. Maybe we'll do that at some point. That'd be fun. But yeah, of the 3 Avatar seasons, it's the weakest, but not bad. It's obviously still a very good show. So pitchforks away, please. Comments below. Comment before you hear the rest. Do that. That sounds like a good idea. How about you get real angry and don't listen to the rest of the podcast? Or even better, get real angry and don't listen to any of it. That's a thing that people sometimes do. Anyway,
I feel like this is about more than your ranking of the Avatar season.
But yeah, it's been nice for you to share in the anger, because again, you've seen arguably the weakest of the 3 seasons of the show, and you're passionate enough about the show for that. And I also think it was just fun to have to have someone go through what I went through.
Yes, but let's be clear, it's not just a bad adaptation; it is also a bad movie
on every level,
in its own right. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100% agree. It doesn't function on any conceivable level at all. It is a bad adaptation, but it is also an absolutely non-functional piece of television. Piece of movie content. It's awful.
In terms of pure movie watching experience, it reminded me of watching Jupiter Ascending.
Oh yeah, that's a good comparison.
Utter what the fuck's going on?
Yeah. Jupiter Ascending is the primary reason I'm not excited about the new Matrix film that's coming up.
That's a bad movie. I saw that in the cinema.
I watched it in pieces, I think, in the end. I intended to sit down and watch it all, but I watched it after the fact at home, and I had to watch it in bits in the end. I had to sort of stop and come back to it because it was just...
Yeah.
Well, it is the movie that it is. So thanks very much, everyone, for listening. Fun little surprise, as I said, crossover episode, whatever you want to call it. I don't know how I'm going to do the visuals for this, because do I make the visuals for the YouTube version analysing Avatar visuals, or do I make the rewind review visuals? Do I cut between the two?
Well, Dan, one gets, a good couple of 100 people listening, and one gets 8 people listening. So I'd go with the analysing Avatar visuals, personally.
That's fair. Either way though, it's been a fun one to have those two podcasts collide in such a clean way. Obviously, for those listening to this, there's still a couple of weeks left of rewind reviews. I did actually work out where this was going to air in the midst of things, so I should actually know how many weeks are left. Bear with me, sorry folks. So you should be listening to this around the 29th of April. Yeah, pretty soon. With obviously, you'll already know at this point that the next movie we're going to review is A New Hope. So we've got the Star Wars trilogy, 2 more. So there's 5 weeks basically of Rewind reviews left, and then we'll be back on the 8th of June to start reviewing season 2 of Avatar. We'll be starting with the episode The Avatar State. So yeah, very excited to come back to Avatar. We're going to start recording that this week, I think. Is it this week? Potentially this week.
Yes, this week.
Potentially. We haven't done the schedule yet. But yeah, I'm very excited to get back to watching Avatar. I like as well, and for those who don't know, on the last podcast we did, we mentioned that we were coming back to Avatar, and Chris said, oh, maybe I'll, let's see if I can find a recap or just something to refresh my memory of that. Because it's been, for us, it's been like 10 weeks since we've watched Avatar. And then part of me went, if we watch the movie, he won't have to.
Yeah, no, it did act as a good... but it did the basic, like... A to B's are covered. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, as bad as the movie is, it does the content of the show is there. Even if you just remember it going, oh well, the show did it better. It forces you to remember the show and how the show handled everything.
I will probably still watch a recap video, but yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. You're the best. You can catch it all the usual places. If you want to hear episodes ahead of time, you can go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/nothingbutstatic. I'm not going to do a Patreon question here because I'm keeping this episode a secret. So I normally tell people what episode that question is being answered on. So I don't want to say it's on the Avatar movie podcast to anyone. So I'm not. We're not going to do a question on this one. But if you want, you can ask us a question, and we'll answer it in the new series of Analysing Avatar. If you ask after this is aired.
The ong and pronunciation of question there.
This movie's ruined me forever. So yeah, you can ask a question which we might answer on a subsequent podcast and give you a little shout out. I say might. The rate the questions are coming in, almost definitely. It's basically a guaranteed shout out.
Ask 10 questions, you'll probably get 10 shout outs over the next year.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, we really appreciate it. You can also get episodes, as I said, a week early, so you'll be able to hear the first discussion of Avatar a week earlier than the day I already gave, as a result of if you're a subscriber. And you can subscribe to that for less than $1 a month, which is good value, I feel like, Chris.
And there's some good stuff coming up in the Star Wars Rewind reviews. There's some lengthy analysis of the movies. There's the incident we hinted at where I'm suffering from a gin tasting the night before,
and we have audio.
There's a lot of good stuff.
That leads us to we have audio of Chris while drunk leaving me voice notes from the night before that we play on the podcast. And let me tell you, that's that's good fun. So make sure you.
You'd be surprised to hear, Dan, I've not drunk gin since.
Is that right? Huh. Shocking. But yeah, so you get all the
Bruno, the gin was excellent quality though, mind, but yeah.
It was good gin, but too much of it.
That was great gin.
Too much of a good thing is what they say. That's the thing they say. So yeah, you can get us on YouTube, youtube.com/nothingbutstatic UK if you want to watch any of the content we're talking about. If you've never heard of us before, obviously you can get like Analysing Avatar, our podcast on Avatar, Rewind Reviews, our podcast where we talk about movies, old movies that we remember, or Nothing But Static, our main podcast, which is on the subject of television, where we generally speaking do TV news and review new shows as they come, and then occasionally do other stuff different to that. You can get us on Twitter. I'm at Dan Doolan. Chris is at C Billingham with 2 M's. A username he is now stuck with because we've said it on nearly 10 years worth of podcasts.
Oh yeah, I'd have changed it like years ago if it weren't for that. Yeah.
But anyone listening to any podcast older than his current one would have, So yeah, I think we've covered it all. Now here's the question, Chris. I've forgotten how we end the Avatar podcasts. I
think let's end it. Let's rewind review the ending.
So you're going to rewind and review that. All right, Chris, take it home.
Yeah. I've been Chris Billingham.
I've been Dan Doolan.
And this review has been Rewound.